civilians or to Ugandans, please keep smiling and stay out of the way, especially when you are aware that the motorcade is going to be using that, especially the border riders. They need to stop being stubborn. But good morning, Ugandans. Thank you for being with us and welcome to the show.
And well, indeed, welcome to the show to all our dear Ugandans and all the NAM member states that are represented in the country, because this time around we're not only inspiring Uganda, we're as well inspiring the entire continent and at the same time inspiring the entire non-aligned movement. Let me get to the seasoned Robert Chirabonyonyi Ntono to check out how his night was and how he's feeling this morning. Robert.
Well, first I'm very happy because so far so good.
Okay.
At least everything is moving as planned. Yesterday we saw the closure and successful closure, I must add, of the East Africa investment and trade exhibition at the Kampala Serena Hotel. We believe so many deals were closed there, and of course many investors are going to come in Uganda. Remember, they have a target of $1 million. In a short time they must have attracted those investors. So I'm very excited. But talk about smiles, I know there are families that are now smiling at this particular time.
True.
Because yesterday President Yoweri Museveni, through powers given to him in the constitution, was able to pardon 13 inmates. Now, most pronounced is Chandi David Jamwa, who was the former director of the National Social Security Fund, who was serving 12 years, was pardoned. We also had one who was pardoned on manslaughter. The rest, it was defilement. But at the moment when Ugandans are smiling, these families must be smiling because their people are coming home.
And also when you look at the sentences, Bambi, you will definitely see where the happiness is stemming from. Let me get to the Immaculate Olive Monica Najuma. I want her opinion on that particular one in regards to the prerogative when you come to
the prerogative of mercy.
Yes.
Well, good morning, Jerome Paul. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. And I'm smiling like we were told to do. And of course, I love that Ugandans have embraced what is going on in our country. We have had a number of summits happening all at the same time. And today we are beginning the IGAD one. And of course, it is going to go without any trouble because Ugandans, we are hospitable and we are very welcoming. Now, when it comes to yesterday's development, when I saw the 13 people that are being pardoned, I like that our president, since he came into power, has been actually extending grace and mercy to different people, even some people that have been part of, rebels. He has pardoned many people and, allowed, let's say, former rebel leaders to come back to the country, have a conversation, come back home. But when it comes to the people that were pardoned yesterday, I have some qualms. And my qualms are, why are we pardoning people that are in jail over defilement? Because defilement is big. Defilement is sexually harassing a minor. If you ask me, yes, everyone deserves a second chance, but I personally think that a defiler, a person that has violated a minor, doesn't deserve it.
Well, indeed, but when you also look into this in accordance with the Article 121(4)(a) of the 1995 Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, the President granted pardon to a total of 13 prisoners on public health and humanitarian grounds. And it's more like extending the grace, I should say. Well, Monica, the President extended grace.
Maybe also for Monica's case. Here we are looking at, there is a certain things that are legal, may not morally be right to certain people. But when the Constitution leaves it open, that he has the right to pardon any prisoner in Uganda prisons, as long as that person has been convicted. Not on remand, but convicted and serving a sentence. So he can pardon anybody, and remember, legally and morally, those two sometimes
I understand that, and someone might actually say, but you're being hypocritical if former rebel leaders are being pardoned, and I didn't even say that I'm okay with that, but the president, like Sonko put it, and the constitution gives him the right to do this. However, I think my main issue is that the biggest part of that list is full of defilers.
Oh. I do
And
understand
I'm like,
where you're coming from.
In prison, weren't there other people that deserved pardon much more than people that have violated minors?
We do await for that indeed, and I do understand where Monica is coming from, and it's furthermore the reason as to why Chantal Oliver Kandinda decided to keep silent. Her silence is normally, I don't know which word to use, but I will just let it go. Now let's get into our local news this morning to check out what we gathered for you from the local scene, and of which we start with Robert.
We'll begin with the non-allied movement, where we saw yesterday the Council of Ministers sitting in Kampala that backed the South Africa decision of taking Israel to court against military operations in Palestine. The ministers in the plenary discussions said member states need to support South Africa to win the case to ensure such that Israel stops the war. The Council of Ministers was opened by the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, retired Major Jessica Alupo, in Kampala.
And still on the Non-Aligned Movement Summit, as the Non-Aligned Movement Summit entered day 3, analysts want the member states to come up with a secretariat which will help in the monitoring of resolutions and continuity by the member states. Dr. Bill Nketo, an academician from Victoria University, says the summit should yield positive results on the country's economy in the future.
And relatedly, there has been an enhanced security presence in the NAM corridor, with additional human resource and equipment deployed to ensure the safety of Ugandans as the NAM summit continues at the Commonwealth Resort in Munyonyo. While the streets are filled with military police presence, members of the public convey they are assured of security while conducting their daily operations. However, for some, it has been an inconvenience.
And while commenting on the Non-Aligned Movement Summit from Bulange Mengo, the Katikiro of Uganda, Charles Peter Maiga, advised international summits and conference organizers to pave ways through which common people can benefit. Maiga says that summits should be used as an advantage to promote products Ugandans produce. This was during an exclusive interview with UBC at Bulange Mengo.
Well, of course, away from our local news, we now turn our eyes to the international scene to see what is making headlines across the borders.
Well, across the borders, we start off with Israel, and it is being accused of having targeted a group of Palestinian civilians with no links to armed groups and who posed no threat to Israeli forces, according to witnesses in the occupied West Bank. 7 men, 4 of them brothers, were killed in an Israeli airstrike early on 7th January as they sat around a fire next to the road through Al-Shuhada, 10 kilometers from the city of Jenin. The BBC has spoken to relatives of the men killed, witnesses in the area at the time, and a paramedic at the scene. All provided strong evidence that the men were not members of armed militant groups and that no clashes with Israeli forces were taking place in the location at the time. Khalid Al-Ahmad, the first paramedic to arrive that morning, is convinced the men were doing nothing wrong. Moving on, Iran has admitted carrying out a missile and drone attack on western Pakistan on Tuesday. Officials in Islamabad said 2 children were killed and 3 others injured in the attack in Balochistan. Iran's foreign minister said the operation targeted the militant group Jaish al-Adli, which he described as an Iranian terrorist group in Pakistan. As a result, the Pakistan's government recalled its ambassador to Iran and has blocked Tehran's envoy from returning. The Balochistan attack comes after Iran attacked targets in Iraq and Syria early this week. Islamabad said the attack was illegal and warned of serious consequences. However, Iran's foreign minister Hossein Amir, speaking in Davos, insisted that no Pakistani citizens had been targeted, only members of Jaish al-Adli. Also, a Sierra Leone court has allowed former President Ernest by Koroma, who is charged with treason to travel abroad on medical grounds. Koroma, 70, was charged early this month with 4 offenses for his alleged role in a failed military attempt to topple the West African country's government in November. The High Court on Wednesday ruled in favor of Koroma, whose lawyers had asked it to allow the former leader a trip abroad for medical reasons. The ex-president, who has been under house arrest, will be allowed to travel to Nigeria for no more than 3 months, the magistrate said before adjourning the case to March 6th. The High Court approved the order and was transmitted to the magistrate's court, where Koroma has been appearing since the day investigation started into his case, Al Jazeera's Ahmed said, reporting from the capital. Shenoba, Sierra Leone's Minister of Information, told news agencies the state is happy to abide by the ruling of the court because we believe in the rule of law, adding that Koroma is leaving for medical attention, but his case remains open. Now, crossing over to matters climate change threatens to cause an additional 14.5 million deaths and $12.5 trillion in economic losses worldwide by 2050, according to a World Economic Forum report published. The report, jointly compiled by the World Economic Forum and the consulting firm Oliver Wyman, is based on scenarios developed by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change on the most likely trajectory for the planet's rising average temperature, 2.5 to 2.9 degrees Celsius over pre-industrial levels, and this is according to news agencies. The report analyzed 6 major consequences of climate change: floods, drought, heat waves, tropical storms, wildfires, and rising sea levels. Flooding alone is estimated to cause 8.5 million deaths by 2050, posing the highest acute risk of climate-induced mortality, according to the study. Droughts, as the second leading cause of climate-related mortality, are forecast to claim 3.2 million lives. Heat waves, on the other hand, are expected to cause the highest economic losses, an estimated $7.1 trillion by 2050. That is it for climate news and what is happening in different parts of the world.
Well, away from the climate news and the international news, we now turn our focus to the press review, which we start from the local dailies. The New Vision. The headline in the New Vision today is Busoga Minerals to fetch 2.2 trillion Ugandan shillings. A tough condition set for investor of the NAM discussions. Then also, President Museveni pardons ex-NSSF boss Jamwa. Read about that particular case from the prisons. Then also leaders arrive for the NAM summit, a pictorial of 3 of the presidents that arrived yesterday from South Sudan, Djibouti and Somalia. Furthermore, we now cross to Kenya with a press review. The Daily Nation highlights Machogu rolls out school fees increase. Then you can also read about the direct Dubai-Mombasa flights to boost tourism. Fly Dubai's inaugural flight touches down at the coast. As cabinet jitters, as Ruto calls retreat. That is also still with the Daily Nation today. Debt with death. Last moments of varsity girl, a pictorial of the late in there, who is a one Rita Waini, who had never met her killer. Where this is a tragic report. Then in the property row, 3,500 households face eviction from city estate. Then in the is it a ghost workers situation? State House and new KCC have the most mystery staff, according to the Auditor General's report in Kenya. Then in the African Cup of Nations, more shocks as Namibia stand ex-champs Tunisia. That is also within Kenya. And of course, as we are heading into our break, just to quickly remind you, yesterday, still on the sidelines of the Non-Aligned Movement Summit, the Minister of Foreign Affairs did launch the NAM Culture Gala dinner. That was the NAM Culture Gala dinner. That was at the Serena Chigo. That is Serena Hotel Chigo. And of course, a number of delegates did attend the same dinner party as well, looking at celebrating culture and the diversity of all nations within the non-aligned movement. Now, it's a throwback Thursday, and our song this time round, our inspiration song of the day this time round, is none other than the Black Eyed Peas. Now, coming in from the Black Eyed Peas, which is saying, "Where is the love?"
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
By using the hashtag on the X app, that is hashtag NAM Summit UGI 2024 for more of the same. Well, of course, the ministerial meetings did kick off yesterday, and we'll be giving you day two of those particular ministerial meetings as well. But furthermore, to bring to you more details in regards to who is arriving in the country. But well, Good Morning Uganda is here to make sure that we inspire your mornings, and with me, the team is already set to make sure that you get inspired this time around. It's pretty much going to be quite different with the introductions. I will start off from my far left with the amazing Chantal Oliver Kandenda. Good morning, Chantal.
Good morning, Sanko. How are you today?
I am well. I'm doing fantastic.
Well, I'm hoping that as we get into day 4 of NAM, the Ugandans are prepared, because we're getting also to the climax of the summit. And that means we are expecting more heads of state to arrive, and a lot more activity. And of course, to the civilians or to Ugandans, please keep smiling and stay out of the way, especially when you are aware that the motorcade is going to be using that, especially the border riders. They need to stop being stubborn. But good morning, Ugandans. Thank you for being with us, and welcome to the show.
And well, indeed, welcome to the show to all our dear Ugandans and all the NAM member states that are represented in the country, because this time around we're not only inspiring Uganda, we're as well inspiring the entire continent, and at the same time inspiring the entire non-aligned movement. Let me get to the seasoned Robert Chirabonyonyi Ntono to check out how his night was and how he's feeling this morning. Robert.
Well, first I'm very happy because so far so good.
Okay.
At least everything is moving as planned. Yesterday we saw the closure and successful closure, I must add, of the East Africa investment and trade exhibition at the Kampala Serena Hotel. We believe so many deals were closed there, and of course many investors are going to come in Uganda. Remember, they have a target of $1 million US. In a short time, they must have attracted those investors. So I'm very excited. But talk about smiles. I know there are families that are now smiling at this particular time.
True.
Because yesterday, President Museveni, through powers given to him in the Constitution, was able to pardon 13 inmates. Now, most pronounced is Chandi David Jamwa, who was the former director of the National Social Security Fund, who was serving 12 years, was pardoned. We also had one who was pardoned on manslaughter. The rest, it was defilement. But at the moment when Ugandans are smiling, these families must be smiling because their people are coming home.
And also, when you look at the sentences, Bambi, you will definitely see where the happiness is stemming from. Let me get to the immaculate Olive Monica Najuma. I want her opinion on that particular one in regards to the prerogative when you come to
The prerogative of mercy.
Yes.
Well, good morning, Jerome Paul. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing
That's
great.
right.
I'm doing great. And I'm smiling like we were told to do. And of course, I love that Ugandans have embraced what is going on in our country. We have had a number of summits happening all at the same time. And today we are beginning the IGAD one. And of course, it is going to go without any trouble because Ugandans, we are hospitable and we are very welcoming. Now, when it comes to yesterday's development, when I saw the 13 people that are being pardoned, I like that our president, since he came into power, has been actually extending grace and mercy to different people, even some people that have been part of, rebels. He has pardoned many people and, allowed, let's say, former rebel leaders to come back to the country, have a conversation, come back home. But when it comes to the people that were pardoned yesterday, I have some qualms.
I knew you do.
And my qualms are, why are we pardoning people that are in jail over defilement? Because defilement is big. Defilement is sexually harassing a minor. if you ask me, yes, everyone deserves a second chance, but I personally think that a defiler, a person that has violated a minor, doesn't deserve it.
Well, indeed, but when you also look into this in accordance with the Article 121(4)(a) of the 1995 Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, the President granted pardon to a total of 13 prisoners on public health and humanitarian grounds. And it's more like extending the grace, I should say. Well, Monica, the President extended grace.
Maybe also for Monica's case. Here we are looking at, there is a certain things that are legal, may not morally be right to certain people. But when the Constitution leaves it open, that he has the right to pardon any prisoner in Uganda prisons, as long as that person has been convicted. Not on remand, but convicted and serving a sentence. So he can pardon anybody, and remember, legally and morally, those two sometimes
I understand that, and someone might actually say, but you're being hypocritical if former rebel leaders are being pardoned, and I didn't even say that I'm okay with that, but the president, like Sonko put it, and the Constitution gives him the right to do this. However, I think my main issue is that the biggest part of that list is full of defilers.
Oh, I don't understand where you're coming from.
In prison, weren't there other people that deserved pardon much more than people that have violated minors?
We do await for that indeed, and I do understand where Monica is coming from, and it's furthermore the reason as to why Chantal Olive Makandinda decided to keep silent. Her silence is normally, I don't know which word to use, but I will just let it go. Now let's get into our local news this morning to check out what we gathered for you from the local scene, and of which we start with Robert.
We'll begin with the non-allied movement, where we saw yesterday the Council of Ministers sitting in Kampala that backed the South Africa decision of taking Israel to court against military operations in Palestine. The ministers in the plenary discussions said member states need to support South Africa to win the case to ensure such that Israel stops the war. The Council of Ministers was opened by the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, retired Major Jessica Alupo, in Kampala.
And still on the Non-Aligned Movement Summit, as the Non-Aligned Movement Summit entered day three, analysts want the member states to come up with a secretariat which will help in the monitoring of resolutions and continuity by the member states. Dr. Bill Nketo, an academician from Victoria University, says the summit should yield positive results on the country's economy in the future.
And relatedly, there has been an enhanced security presence in the NAM corridor, with additional human resource and equipment deployed to ensure the safety of Ugandans as the NAM summit continues at the Commonwealth Resort in Munyonyo. While the streets are filled with military police presence, members of the public convey they are assured of security while conducting their daily operations. However, for some, it has been an inconvenience.
And while commenting on the Non-Aligned Movement Summit from Bulange Mengo, the Katikiro of Uganda, Charles Peter Maiga, advised international summits and conference organizers to pave ways through which common people can benefit. Maiga says that summits should be used as an advantage to promote products Ugandans produce. This was during an exclusive interview with UBC at Bulange Mengo.
Well, of course, away from our local news, we now turn our eyes to the international scene to see what is making headlines across the borders.
Well, across the borders, we start off with Israel, and it is being accused of having targeted a group of Palestinian civilians with no links to armed groups and who posed no threat to Israeli forces, according to witnesses in the occupied West Bank. 7 men, 4 of them brothers, were killed in an Israeli airstrike early on 7th January as they sat around a fire next to the road through Al-Shuhada village, 10 kilometers from the city of Jenin. The BBC has spoken to relatives of the men killed, witnesses in the area at the time, and a paramedic at the scene. All provided strong evidence that the men were not members of armed militant groups and that no clashes with Israeli forces were taking place in the location at the time. Khalid Al-Ahmad, the first paramedic to arrive that morning, is convinced the men were doing nothing wrong. Moving on, Iran has admitted carrying out a missile and drone attack on western Pakistan on Tuesday. Officials in Islamabad said 2 children were killed and 3 others injured in the attack in Balochistan. Iran's foreign minister said the operation targeted the militant group Jaish al-Adli, which he described as an Iranian terrorist group in Pakistan. As a result, the Pakistan's government recalled its ambassador to Iran and has blocked Tehran's envoy from returning. The Balochistan attack comes after Iran attacked targets in Iraq and Syria early this week. Islamabad said the attack was illegal and warned of serious consequences. However, Iran's foreign minister Hossein Amir, speaking in Davos, insisted that no Pakistani citizens had been targeted, only members of Jaish al-Adli. Also, a Sierra Leone court has allowed former President Ernest Bai Koroma, who charged
educating them about the summit and telling them more about what it meant. But also, in preparation of the summit, you remember, I like to say that Kampala was a big construction site. So we had all these roadworks going on in different parts of the country. Since December. And for most people, the concern is that when did we know that as a country we were going to host the NAM summit? So some people were like, you cannot do work very like last minute. It means you might do haphazard work, especially when it comes to roads. And before we know it, a few months later, we are having maybe potholes, and maybe some stories are coming out how money was not used well in certain areas. But for the most part, when the summit started, since the summit started on Monday to today, Thursday, for the most part, especially for people that are applying the routes where the venues for the NAM summits are, there has been an inconvenience when it comes to transportation.
Indeed.
Taxi drivers have said that even the designated bus stops, they're not allowed to park there to pick passengers. And some of them have been manhandled, some have been beaten because they are not supposed to be there. But their argument is, no one even told us that we are not supposed to be there before the event happened. And they're like, they didn't even create for us a new space where we could operate from for a few days until the summit is done. So when you go to Twitter, you see that many Ugandans have been saying, okay, fine, maybe the country is going to leverage on this summit, maybe we are going to sign the bilateral agreements here and there. But when you affect the person that lives in the house because you have a visitor, when you make them uncomfortable, then is it to their benefit? Those are some of the views of some Ugandans. So those are some of the impacts of the summit on some Ugandans. But there is a positive, in as much as we can't say there has been an inconvenience in terms of transportation and whatnot. We have at least been able to get more than 10 good roads done. And this is an effect that we are going to enjoy way after
the NAM summit.
The summits are done. The NAM summit, the G77 plus China, and all these other summits, way after they are done. These are some of the benefits we are going to enjoy as a country. But of course, the big question here is, we have worked on these roads. Are we going to be in position to maintain them so that we do not encounter what we've been going through way before the summits came? Because it's one thing to clean your house because a visitor is coming. Will you clean under those chairs after the visitor is
left? Well, of course, it goes back to how prepared we shall be. In fact, after the summit, many Ugandans were actually saying that it does seem like we've prepared so well, but also remember, for you as a Ugandan, how are you going to maintain the quality of the roads and everything that was refurbished?
I want to say something
sure thing, Chantal.
I'm hoping that we did not plaster mud houses.
Oh,
I'm
like
hoping.
inside it is rotten, but
Yeah,
on
I'm
the
hoping.
outside.
You know, Monica was thinking about the good side of the roads have been done, and we all do know that sometimes.
No, that happens.
But also,
that indeed happens, Monica.
also for a minute,
Yes.
there is something of most importance that I have recognized, and that is the increased security in different corridors in our country, especially on the roads. We've seen footage supplied by Uganda Police Force of petty thieves that have been mugging people, especially in areas where there are traffic lights. Now, the big question is, even this morning when I was coming to work, I spotted many on my way.
On the road.
But the big question is, will they stay in these spots and ensure that Ugandans are safe long after the summit?
The chances are they may not stay because most of them are army officers and they are protecting the situation.
You know, this is
arise.
it's a special case. We have different delegates from different countries. I mean, so far we have over 93 countries. We have over 350 delegates
who are in the country.
Who
yes.
are in the country. They've
And
already
we're
gone past
expecting
350.
more coming in.
Yes, so that means we can't afford to live normally like we've been living. And of course, you also can't afford to have anything happen to anyone on Ugandan soil.
And well, Chantal, on that very point, what are some of the other activities that took place on day one of the summit? If you could put it up in a brief, what are those activities that took part in day one so that the viewers can keep up to speed with our conversation this morning?
Well, some of the activities that took place on the 15th, that was on Monday, we had plenary sessions. Now, these are plenary sessions that were attended by heads of delegation from different parts of from different countries, and we had over 93 countries being represented. And by Monday, we had about 350 delegates that were already in the country. Now, these plenary sessions majorly were like the beginning of the summit, majorly discussing different issues, and we had Adonia. I almost confused the name Adonia with Adonai.
Adonai.
Yes, so we had
Ayebare.
Adonia Ayebare elected the chairperson, of the meeting on Monday, and what we saw was welcoming of the guests, of course, and these were being welcomed by the minister of that is His Excellency. Pardon me, by the Minister J.J. Odong, and then also that is for foreign affairs, and then also, of course, the adoption of the agenda, which was adopted by the chair of the NAM Coordinating Bureau, then election of the chair, which was done, and we saw Adonia Ayebare elected, then establishment of political committee and the economic and social committee. So we have two committees that were put in place, and then. Well, there was a consideration of the draft. Unfortunately for us, we don't have access to the final draft.
It was a closed meeting.
It is, pardon?
It was a closed meeting.
It was a closed meeting, so we are expecting to also have some of that information as the rest of the Ugandans are waiting to have the same. And well, briefly, that is what happened on day one. Plenary sessions that led us to day two, where we had different delegates from different countries, over 93 countries being represented, and having over 350 different delegates in those plenary sessions.
And well, of course, speaking of the draft that Chantal has actually mentioned, we shall only be receiving the final declaration of what was discussed in those closed meetings at the end of the summit. So that's why, as of now, we do not know what was declared in the Kampala declaration, if you're to put it in that way, because that is what history will have written in that regard. For the students of African nationalism, you can definitely get up to speed with the meaning of the declaration, but it's definitely regarding the discussions and what the heads of state or the heads of delegation will have come up with in regards to the matters that were put on the table. Let me get back to Monica. Day one and day two, further looking at the events that did happen, we did also have some other summits on the sidelines as well.
Yes. We had the business summit at Kampala Serena Hotel, and we had the Women in Agribusiness Summit that happened at the Serena Hotel in Chigo. And of course, in all this, we expect that bilateral agreements were signed, because this is actually the good side of the summits, because we had the main summit as the non-aligned movement summit happening in Munyonyo, but then we had these business sides summits on the side, and what that does is that it puts Uganda in a position where it can be internationally recognized as a place worth of investment. We have gotten a chance to showcase what we stand for as a country. So what are the main aspects that we need to put forward, or that we have put forward for all these guests to see and see areas of investment in Uganda? We have agribusiness and we have tourism. Yeah, we also, yes. So, and of course we have many other aspects of the economy where investors from different countries can come in and actually sink in their money and be sure that they are going to get their investments worth. So this has been good for us, and of course many, like I said, the bilateral agreements that have been signed or will be signed, and also the beauty is that for these business summits, now Ugandans that are not like, let's say, high-level individuals like the ones attending the summit in Munyonyo have been able to actually be part and parcel of these conversations that have been taking place. And if someone is, let's say, is in the SME area or in any area of business, they have been able to strike deals and to have conversations with people in business from other parts of the world. And at the end of the day, this is what now benefits. This is the advantage of having these summits in our country, because when we talk investment, we are not talking about, let's say, 1 billion Uganda shillings. We are speaking about foreign currency that is going to come into our country. We are speaking about mergers. We are speaking about, partnerships between Ugandans, or Uganda as a country, or separate individuals with people from different parts of the country. And this is the only way we can grow as a country.
And well, Chantal, you have something to say?
Oh yes, definitely. On the second day, the president, represented by the vice president, came out and really stressed and made it very clear to every individual, not just Ugandans, but whoever attended the East Africa Investment Summit, and let them know that, one, much as we're a growing country, we are stable enough, and you will get value for the money that you will have invested in our country. And I think this is the beauty about the whole event and the whole summit, because it's one, putting Uganda at the center stage. It's giving Uganda, it's giving shining some more light on Uganda, what we can offer, what we are. And I believe that with all these summits being concluded, these events that are happening on the sideline, at the end of it all, we are going to see direct foreign investment growing in the country, and that is something that we are looking forward to. So that means we are yet to see some growth for a developing country like Uganda. And well, I think this was like in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, Uganda was named by Bloomberg as, it was top 5. I think it was the 5th. And
top investment destination.
Yes.
Yes.
So that means that we are headed for even bigger and better growth with the conclusion, or with every activity that is happening in the NAM Summit.
And when we talk about investment, we mean, because someone out there may be wondering, but in which areas? I mentioned a few, but we can see collaboration in areas of healthcare. We can see collaboration in areas of education. We can see collaboration in areas of tourism. I mean, we've seen neighboring countries collaborating with other, let's say, a football team outside the country. And it has garnered many tourists to their country. And we can also have these collaborations with different people from different sectors, and before you know it, we are having different infrastructure growth in our country because of these partnerships and summits that we are having right now. And even individuals.
I mean,
yes.
I'm giving an example. Someone, if you've noticed the movements I've been trying to follow a certain trail of where are people going for accommodation. Not all, but most. There is a particular individual businessman whose establishments are really ripping big.
That's true.
That is very true, you know
Yes.
it. So what am I saying? This means
Over
that
20 hotels are benefiting from the
thank
entire
you.
summit.
But then again,
And
there
most
is,
of them are booked out.
So what am I trying to say? I'm saying someone would see if there is something that is in their country that they're not seeing in Uganda in terms of hospitality that they can add into the country, there is room for that. So individuals as well will be in position to invest in our country, and I think this is very good for us.
Well, let's also look at it this way, ladies. We also had countries among those who are represented having issues at hand in the first 3 days. Which countries are those, and what issues were raised? Because we did expect a number of issues raised by most of the member states.
Palestine is part of the non-aligned movement summit, and we know what is happening in Gaza right now between Palestine and Israel. And of course, you know, the non-aligned movement is partly, one of the reasons it was formed is to not align with any Western or Eastern bloc. And by here we mean superpowers that most of you know very well. So when we see what is happening in Gaza, it means that the sovereignty of one country is being threatened
right.
by
the
another
others.
country.
Yes.
Exactly. And because of this, they sought actually not collaboration but support from the other member states, like to have one voice, to have this other country, Israel, stand down and stop, because it looks more like they want to wipe that part of the world off of the face of the earth with the bombings and what is going on. And this is what their representative said. He said, we are a country, we are a people, and we need to still coexist. But what is happening right now is not what we stand for. So he was calling upon other member states to join them and make sure that Israel stops attacking the people of Palestine. But also there is the other issue where in Somalia, where Somalia does not recognize Somaliland as a separate country. And here the argument is we are a whole. We do not, secession? We do not accept the breakaway of one country to form Somaliland, because we do not know it as a nation. And right now, even under the non-aligned movement summit, there is no Somaliland. So they were still beckoning other member states to join them and have one voice in ensuring that there is no nation called Somaliland. Actually,
the permanent, I think this is, when it comes to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, that is Mr. Hamza Adan. He came out and said it's very wrong for NAM to look away as the neighbors are choosing to violate, these are his words, to violate territorial integrity. This is according to the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and it says our borders must be respected and upheld in accordance with the international law. This is something he told fellow delegates, and calling upon something to be done and said, especially because one of the core values or one of the cores of NAM is to decolonize, make sure that we don't see things like colonization and racism and apartheid happening ever again, especially in these developing countries.
But now the big question is, how exactly are NAM member states supposed to react? Because part of their mandate is not to intervene or interfere actually in the affairs of another country. And where there is war, in most cases, the best way to show support is to come together and fight the common enemy. But that would abuse
and that is why
the original mandate.
Everyone is waiting eagerly to see what the Kampala declaration is going to look like. Where is the stand of the NAM member states? How are they going to come out and stand? Because I did see South Africa yesterday at the opening of the ministerial meeting, the representative, when you look at what they were actually sharing, they were actually showing a stand and they were calling for one voice against what is happening in Gaza. So you get to realize that everyone, all the eyes of the entire world, is focusing to see what is likely to come out of the Kampala declaration, or the final draft document that has been highlighted in the first 1 and 2 days of the summit.
You know, as NAM, they may not have the right to interfere when it comes to the affairs of another country. But if you make a stand as a whole, that means you are not in support of whatever is happening. So you are showing support. You're literally showing where you belong. Not that it's going to now interfere and probably say close the dispute, but you are showing where you belong. You are highlighting, you're highlighting your principles and showing which side you support. And at the end of the day, when it comes to politics, the more support you have behind you, in a way it pushes you, or it pushes the agenda, or it helps you to, you know, to fight if you have to fight. So at this point, it's a matter of seeking for how much support do we have, and who is on our side, who is not on our side, which is very crucial for international relations.
And well, of course, yesterday, day 3, saw the ministerial meetings kick off. And obviously, even today in day 4, we expect more of the same meetings ongoing. But the arrivals of other presidents coming up, and that is something that you would definitely be able to expect. And also on this day 4, on the sideline of the NAM summit, just to remind you, we have the 42nd extraordinary session of the IGAD Assembly Heads of State and Government, which is scheduled to take place today. We already have 3 heads of state that have already landed in the country, one from Djibouti, then the president of Somalia and the president of South Sudan, who are also going to be part of the Non-Aligned Movement Summit that is ongoing at the Speak Resort in Munyonyo. But of course, you get to realize that the East Africa Business Forum Trade and Investment Forum also came to an end yesterday. But further, the NAM, or the Non-Aligned Movement Summit, is still running till the 20th, and we are here to make sure that you are covered and you get to know of everything that is happening. After that, we shall be having the G77 plus China Summit that will be kicking off immediately after the NAM Summit, and all of that will be live here on your national broadcaster. Now, let me get back to the ladies in a minute or two. Monica, I'll start with you. Looking at the final days as we are heading to the climax of the summit, what should the Ugandans expect, or what should the Ugandans be proud of from the summit?
Well, first of all, when it comes to pride, we are a hospitable country, that there is no doubt. And I'm sure our visitors have experienced you know, a warm welcome from Ugandans, starting from the airport to the townships that they've gone through to go to their different places of abode. What you see, or what you have experienced, is exactly what happens in our country. We are a peaceful nation, and as Ugandans, I commend you for continuing to be peaceful. We've not had any eventualities happening, and this is how we, this is normal business. This is how we usually are as a country. But as the summits end, the business summit ended yesterday, and as NAM closes on the 20th, one highlight for me would be if in the declaration things to do with trade are handled. We are experiencing barriers in both regional and international trade. And as the Vice President put it yesterday while addressing the summit, she said that if we deepen cooperation as member states of the summit, then we will be able to develop our respective countries. And as a Ugandan, that's what I would like to see.
And well, of course, thank you very much, Monica. In a minute, Chantal, what are you looking forward to in the final days of the NAM summit, and what next after?
I'm honestly looking way past the summit. I'm looking at what the result of the summit. I'm looking at direct foreign investment. I'm looking at more organization. I'm looking at different changes, especially economically and also internationally, in terms of relations and growth in trade for us, especially as Ugandans. I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, of course, we should indeed look forward to the positives from the NAM summit, from the political side, social and economical part of it, because there is a lot of diplomatic discussions going on at the summit, and we also expect a lot of foreign direct investments that are likely to come into the situation or into the picture after the summit and after the end of the East Africa Business Forum. So that is something we should highly anticipate. You're still watching Good Morning Uganda, and it's day 4 of the NAM Summit, and the live broadcast is still ongoing with us here on UBC. Coming up shortly after is the UBC Tourism Express with Alan, who is here to make sure that she takes you through the world of tourism. So as you understand what is happening from that side of nature and the beauty Uganda has to offer. Stick around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome everyone to the biggest game on the continent.
And you have to, you've got to just seize those moments and enjoy them as much as you possibly can.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
A very good morning to all our viewers. I'm Irene Alena Misango, Uganda Uncovered. Like we uncover and unveil everything that there is that you need to explore and visit in the Pearl of Africa. This is the GMU Tourism Express, and this is the time where we take you around the world of tourism in Uganda, taking you through the travel news, activities, attractions, where you need to stay when you're on a trip in Uganda, where do you want to go, which activities entice you. Like we talk about everything that you need to know about Uganda's tourism. And for today, the fact that we are entering into a weekend, like we are very close to the weekend and the city is already hyping up. Anyway, for Kampala city it is different. Actually for it they say that it is the city that never sleeps, because for it is different. You find where to party every day. Each single day of the week, from Monday to Sunday. You never fail to get anywhere. And today we are going to take you through the Kampala nightlife. We want to show you which spots would you want to go to, like which spots would interest your fantasies. Where would you feel like excited to go around Kampala? Because Kampala, it is even called a city that never sleeps. And revealers can even like prove this when you talk to Kenyans, when you talk to Tanzanians or Rwandans, they say that Kampala is one of the cities in East Africa that never sleeps. And when you're in Kampala streets, maybe in the afternoons, you could probably say that maybe these people are all early bed people. They go to bed maybe after the prime TV time. At around 9, when you find them hustling during that day, you could think that, oh, these people are very humble and they just go to bed very early. But my friend, when it gets to the night, the story is totally different. The hustle and bustle streets that you see in Kampala, they become different at night. And when you want to explore and see what really happens in Kampala at night, these are some of the spots that you shouldn't miss out. Some of the things that happen during the night in Kampala. First of all, are the cultural events. You have cultural events, mostly at Ndere Culture Center. Like if you want to delve into Uganda's cultural dances, cultural performances, and songs, like you need to go to Ndere Culture Center. Like this center, there are different performances like Karamoja performances, Ankole dances, Machiganda dances, like a lot. You just get to delve, test the local meals that we have in Kampala. This is a spot that is usually filled with tourists, but also locals. Some locals go there, those that are interested in cultures, so they go there. So if you want to do some testing, you test yourself to see if you know how to shake maybe the Chiganda dance. Ndere Culture Center is just a perfect spot for you to go around Kampala in the night. And then we talk also about the live bands. There are so many places around Kampala where I can enjoy the live band. If you're this kind of person who just wants to enjoy maybe the nice and cozy ambience, sitting around, chilling with friends, and just maybe listening to cool music and just having nice conversations with your friends with a few drinks, you need to catch up one of the nights with live bands in Kampala. Sheraton Hotel usually has live band every Sunday. There is a Wild Coffee Bar every Sunday. So you can just catch up with different places, hotels and restaurants, usually hold different live bands on different days. Maybe you find a live band that is held on Friday, Thursday. It depends on the day that you want to enjoy your live band and have fun with your friends. Then we can also talk about Acacia Avenue. This is so close to Kampala, by the way. It is a home to Acacia Mall, and it is littered with so many restaurants, bars, and nightclubs. It is one of the shiniest streets in Kampala. And when you just have to chill, it has so many tourists also. However, also the locals really go into the nightclubs. But you can think of maybe La Teresa, Pizza Connection. Like these places are always filled with tourists, but even locals usually go up. Millennium Terrace, like you just need to go and enjoy the music. They're filled with loud music, beautiful lights, yellow walls. Like you just need to go and enjoy the nights here at Acacia Avenue. Then another place that is usually full of life in Kampala during the night, there is also on Tinda. Now this is somehow a cheeky area of Kampala because it has so many lavish students. So when you're in these clubs in Tinda, you'll be sure of meeting mini skirts, those high heels, some blazers, because they are those lavish people, somehow upscale people that are enjoying or having fun in these bars in Tinda. So the Tinda streets are also filled with street food. So if you're just exploring through Kampala during the night, also street food should be one of the things that you should test while in Kampala. Other places that you can think about in Kampala, there is Kabalagala. Now Kabalagala, if it is your first day in the city or your first day in the country, Kabalagala could be a lot of depth for you. You could think that this is the madness that usually happens in the town. However, I'm not saying that Kabalagala is bad, but it has a lot of fun. Actually, Kabalagala is very different from its name, because when you talk about Kabalagala, it means just a local snack that is made from cassava flour and banana flour. But being that aside, you could not tell that Kabalagala is such a very busy city during the night. There are bars like Capital Pub. This one is even called like a pitch. A pitch, like when you go there, you'll be sure finding there so many Kampala women dressed like I don't know, but the place is so amazing. If you're that had fun part here, you just need to be here because the fun really goes, the part goes really deep in Kabalagala. It has so many bars, and if you want to have fun, just go with someone so that you can be able to hop from one bar to another to have more fun. Maybe at around 1 a.m. there, you go to another bar. At around 3 a.m. you shift to another bar. You just enjoy the whole night. Kampala never sleeps. Another place that we can think about, it is Kololo. Kololo is also now dotted with so many beautiful and luxury lounges. So Kololo, there is catwalk, there is cask lounge. Like these places are those upscale places or lounges that you need to be. If you're this kind of person who just needs to sit around, enjoy, and just chew your money, like without anyone telling you anything or saying, these people are enjoying a lot of money spent. This is where you find all those expensive wines. So Kololo is a spot for you, and it is always busy every night, Monday to Sunday. You never fail to get a place where you can party from in Kololo. Nigeria is the last one that I can say. Nigeria, now that place is full of slave queens. If you're this person is so much into seeing those beautiful women, just feeding your eyes. They're beautiful to the eyes. So if you want to feed your eyes and you just want to party around the beautiful girls, Nigeria has all the slave queens that you need to find. So those are some of the places that you need to think about when you want to enjoy the Kampala nightlife. However much there are also places, even all the suburbs around Kampala, they are all dotted with good and nice restaurants and bars that you can never fail to get a place where to party while in Kampala. And it is a city that never sleeps. I'm telling you, when you judge it during the day, you will misjudge it. Well, for that travel tip that we have today, still the fact that we are talking about the Kampala nightlife, I'm going to tell you that the travel tip is, please don't go alone. Don't go alone. Find some friends, maybe 2 or 1. It depends on how outgoing you are, but don't go alone because it becomes more fun when you're hopping from one bar to another throughout the night so that you get different experiences. Thank you so much. I'm Irene Alena Misang, and next is a business update with Joram Paul Sonko.
Time for the business news, and Alan did mention something about the nightlife, and you get to realize that that is a whole economy on its own. The nightlife economy and the nightlife business is something that is eye-catching in the capital of Kampala. Alan, you did mention something about the nightlife, and I was listening and paying attention to the places, where anyone can easily go in form of tourism, but entertainment tourism, if that's the right word for me to use. But you see, we also have these visitors. If you are to look through how best can they, enjoy such a time, looking at it from a perspective of adventure at the same time, but also entertainment.
Yeah, we're looking at the visitors of maybe the NAM delegates.
Yes.
Are they the ones? Okay. Now, people have a personality outside their usual work. So you could find someone that he's a delegate, yes, maybe he's a minister of a department in his country, but away from work, he's a deep fun partier. So this person can go to places like Acacia Avenue. There are so many bars there that are always filled up with foreigners, like tourists, but also locals usually go there. But if someone is just maybe into culture, I have said maybe they can go to Ndere Culture Center. That is more diplomatic. You just sit, enjoy the performances. Presidents can go there. You can have prime ministers there. But maybe if you're also this person who just wants maybe to roam around the streets. Kampala, you know, is full of what?
Yes,
street foods,
and
like
also
very
the
many
Bandari
bars.
Rise that is also filled up with lots of entertainment places,
Yeah.
still in the night. But of course, Alan was here to give you more details from the world of tourism, and of course, she has mentioned some eye-catching places in Kampala. Thank you very much, Alan. And of course, she has mentioned some eye-catching places, eye-catching places in Kampala, where you can ideally go and definitely have a good time in the night. And surely that is something that you can keep up to speed with from Uganda's perspective. The tourism sector is quite huge, but the opportunities are there for everybody in regards to making money out of it, enjoyment and adventure. Well, it is now time for us to check in to see what is making headlines from the world of business. And of course, our first business update is in relation to the mining license. Government has granted Rwenzori Rare Metals Limited a 21-year large-scale mining license. Now, the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, licensor represented by the line minister, Dr. Ruth Nankabira, urged the licensees, represented by Warren Tregutha, the chief executive of Rwenzori Rare Metals, to observe all the working conditions and obligations that were prescribed under Section 70 of the Mining and Minerals Act 2022 and the other relevant regulations from the government and other guidelines that will be coming along the way. Now, also that Rwenzori Rare Metals will conduct its mining activities on a 44 square kilometer area in several districts in the Busoga sub-region. And it's something that you need to have if you are into the mining sector. Pretty much looking into the fact that those from the Rwenzori area will definitely now be mining with grace from the government. Not only that, but they will definitely be expecting support from the central government that will ideally help them grow in regards to the mining industry. Now, furthermore, let's talk internet services. The Non-Aligned Movement Summit is taking place in Kampala. And of course, not only that, there is quite some good observation from many of the internet users or the internet subscribers, especially those who are settled in Entebbe, pretty much those who are flying out of the country. For those who have stepped foot at the Entebbe International Airport, will tell you the internet speed is something that you will definitely relate to what the current Minister of Finance did relate to Uganda's economy, flying on a very high note, I should say. So the internet speed at the airport, not only there, but also in the capital, according to what we do know so far. Now, MTN Uganda is committed to fostering global dialogue as the official telecommunications partner for the 19th summit of NAM and also the G77 plus China summit that will be taking place after the NAM summit. Now, in an exclusive interview with UBC, Sylvia Molinge, who is the CEO of MTN Uganda, welcomed the delegates to the Pearl of Africa and assured them of the best-in-class network connectivity throughout the two summits that are taking place in Kampala. So, of course, when you look at that, MTN, which is also among the internet providers in the country, but also other internet providers are as well tapping into the opportunities that the NAM Summit is providing, because as you know it, business is all about capitalizing from the opportunities that you have at hand, and how you make good use of them is simply back to you. So the capitalizing part of it goes back to the fact that you need to make money in regards to making sure that you're providing good quality internet. And of course, speaking of internet connectivity, the quality of the internet also goes back to how fast it is in this particular digital era that we have, and how it is actually helping many to connect easily. So there is a lot of that. And also the element of affordability is very crucial as well. Now, unveiled by the Housing Finance Bank, the 400 million Fukadon campaign aims at enhancing the well-being of fostering growth and development for their clients, running from January to April 2024. Now, as this is something that we're looking at in NAM, the housing sector has something to offer. And this particular one is the Fukadon campaign. Now, speaking of the Fukadon campaign, it's going to be a campaign running from January to April 2024. And this initiative offers customers the opportunity to secure loans of up to 400 million Ugandan shillings, repayable over a flexible period of up to 7 years. A housing campaign or a housing loan that can help you get your dream house. Within 7 years, you can be able to complete and clear that particular loan. Loans of up to 400 million Ugandan shillings is what the Fukadon campaign is willing to offer to anyone of you who wants to get this particular opportunity. And of course, this is coming in the week of NAM. Huge opportunities that are at stake, really. Lastly, from our business update this morning is looking at the forex market. How and where can you get these currencies? Now, courtesy of the Bank of Uganda, the US dollar yesterday morning opened its buying at 3,803.08, while selling was at 3,813.08. By midday, the US dollar was buying at 3,805.38, while selling at 3,815.38. Closing time saw the US dollar go to 3,807.54, while selling was 3,817.54. The Great Britain pound was buying at 4,801.30, while selling at 4,813.91. The euro was buying at 4,136.51, while selling at 4,147.37. The Kenyan shilling was buying at 23.72, while selling at 23.78. The Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.51 shillings, while selling at 1.51 shillings as well. And the South African rand was buying at 200.16, while selling at 200.68. That's how you can definitely find those particular currencies for those who are heading out to exchange. We do have quite a number of delegates and visitors. That is the current rate of the exchange rates in the country. That is courtesy of the Central Bank of Uganda. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko. Stick around to Good Morning Uganda. Coming up shortly is the traffic updates, giving you an update on how you can maneuver through the traffic madness within this week. Olive Monica Najuma is just a minute away to letting that happen. Good morning.
It is yet another beautiful day here on Good Morning Uganda. Welcome. Thank you so much for keeping with us from 6:30 up until this minute. And we are still going with you. We are still bringing you footage from the Non-Aligned Movement Summit and, of course, giving you news and topical discussions. We'll be having many different guests coming to join us on Good Morning Uganda. But for now, we speak matters traffic. But before I get into the traffic updates for the morning, I have two questions for you. The first one is, when did you last change your engine oil, or when did you last do your car service? Do you know that sometimes some people will do their service and forget that at a given mile they're supposed to go back and do service? Now, if you're that person, this is a reminder that your car is up for service, so you should go and have it checked. And as you're doing that, you should also have a look at your brakes so that you know if they're in order. You may hear something squeaking and you're like, I'll have that checked at a given point. This is the time when you should have that looked into. Also, a travel tip if you're moving into the areas of Waise, because this is the route that we are going to be looking at. If you are moving during rush hour, it will do you a lot of good to move on a boda. Now, if you're new to Uganda, bodas or motorcycles are the best getaway or the best way to move to particular places, especially at given times, especially where there is rush hour or traffic hours and you need to go to a certain place and be back in record time. You may use a boda. It will get you to wherever you're going faster and safer. Of course, you need to take your safety into your own hands and ensure that the rider is not driving like someone is chasing him. So it is upon you to always remind your rider to, first of all, respect traffic rules and regulations by staying under a given speed limit, but also to not abuse traffic lights. Border borders have a tendency of doing that. But if you take your security in your hands, you will not be in trouble. Well, now let's get into the traffic updates. If you're coming from the areas of Kawempe, Kawanda, Kagoma, Matuga, and you're coming to the Central Business District, this is the route we are looking at. And we are starting from the areas of Bwaise around the taxi stage just before the bypass to see how you can move and get from one place to another. Now here we see a few orange zones here which are indicative of traffic that has slowed down and that traffic jam is starting to build. Now continuing ahead at the intersection in Bwaise that has Naweru Road joining the Kampala Gulu Highway, you will realize that there is a red zone over there, as you can see on your screen, and it may delay you for a few minutes because that is traffic jam in this particular section. But moving ahead up to the bypass roundabout, we see a few orange zones brought about by the fact that you are now at the bypass. You need to slow down and ensure that you get through to different directions of the bypass because there are many connecting roads. As you can see, there is Bomba Road, there is Sir Apollo Kagwa Road, and there is that road that takes you to the sides of Gayaza. Now following through with Bomba Road, we'd like to see how best you can get to areas like Wandegea when you use Bomba Road off the bypass. Now this one looks okay for people that are going to the sides of Bwaise, but for those coming to the side of Wandegea, you're going to encounter a bit of an encumbrance because it is slow in some section. Just after the bypass roundabout, you will encounter a bit of traffic that is starting to build up, but as you move ahead, the good news is that there is smooth flow of traffic as evidenced by the green lines that you are seeing on your screen. Moving ahead, we still encounter green zones for the most part on Bomba Road, and as we approach the roundabout that joins Gayaza Road to Bomba Road to Binaisa Road, now here for those going Binaisa Road side, there is a bit of traffic jam here, and for those that are still following through with Bomba Road, you will encounter some bit of traffic jam just after this roundabout. But moving ahead, there is smooth flow of traffic in this section. Now when you go ahead after the roundabout that connects those roads, you will encounter a bit of traffic jam, and there is delays, and then there is a big stretch of traffic jam on Bomba Road for those coming to the side of Wandegea and the heart of town, but also for those that are going the side of Bwaise, you will encounter some bit of traffic jam that is starting to build up in this section. And as this road joins Wandegea, what you see on your screen, that is the middle of Wandegea, and we have traffic lights here. Now this section connects Makere Hill Road. I see traffic jam coming through from Makere Hill Road over here, and of course as Makere Hill Road goes ahead to join that roundabout that connects you to Yusufule Road, there is smooth flow of traffic there. But if you're continuing with Bomba Road and going up to Buganda Road, that road that connects you to Buganda Road has a little bit of traffic jam, but it is not intense, so you won't lose a lot of time. While looking at Buganda Road, there is a bit of traffic jam here at that section, but it's not much, so you should be able to go to your next destination in record time. Now, off Bomba Road, I see a bit of traffic jam on Queens Lane that has built up, and it is a bit intense, so if that's the section you're at or where you're headed, you might encounter delays in this particular section. Now still moving ahead with Bomba Road, I still see that this section is green, which indicates a smooth flow of traffic. And as Bomba Road transitions into Kampala Road just outside Watoto Church, you're going to experience a bit of traffic jam in this section, and it goes on for some stretch. Now the traffic situation may not be intense, the traffic jam situation, but you're going to lose time in this particular place because there is the traffic is starting to build up, and you can't really drive very fast. And of course, as you can see, the roads surrounding City Square are all some of them have red zones indicative of traffic jam that has built up. And then a close look at the whole of Kampala Road shows that Kampala Road has either orange or red zones, which means that in some sections there is intense traffic jam, and then in other sections traffic jam is starting to build up, so there is a slow movement of vehicles in this corner. And for the people that are heading up to Speak Road, you will encounter a bit of traffic jam in this section. And looking at Kampala Road, where it goes again after Speak Road, after that intersection that joins it to Speak Road, you will encounter that now we have green zones in this section, which are indicative of a smooth flow of traffic. And even surrounding roads like Nasa Road have smooth flow of traffic as at this minute. But as you know, traffic jam can be really confusing. A few minutes you might pass in some section of town and there is no traffic, and then in a few minutes, if you delay, I normally say that in the morning, every minute counts. If you delay, you might not like what you may find on the road. Today is Thursday, and the weather is a bit not really deciding whether it's going to rain or not. So you're safe coming to town as early as you can so that you don't lose time. Well, that's it for the traffic updates that we had for you this morning. Good Morning Uganda continues. We still have a lot lined up for you. We have topical discussions regarding the NAM summit. We have heads of state that started flying into the country as of yesterday, and we will be having the Kampala declaration coming through as we go along with the NAM summit. So stay with us. We have a lot coming your way.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Everyone to the biggest game on the continent.
And you have to. You've got to just seize those moments and enjoy them as much as you possibly can.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Junko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Junko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you. All right, we are here for our conversations to do with the NAM Week 2024, the NAM Summit Week 2024. Welcome along, everybody. This is Good Morning Uganda. At our agenda conversation today, further interesting and quite insightful, if you ask me, looking deeper into one of the committees that were made on day one of the Non-Aligned Movement Summit 2024. The hashtag on the X app is the hashtag on the X app is NAM Summit UGI 2024. For those who want to join the conversation so that you can share your insights, your observations, and your takeaway points on the same matter. Mentioning or looking at the committees that were met on day one, we had two of those. One was the Political Committee, then two, the Economic and Social Affairs Committee. Now, the latter is the reason as to why we are in here for our agenda discussion. But of course, just to remind you of the theme through which our conversations are being driven. The theme for the Non-Aligned Movement Summit 2024, or the 19th NAM Summit of its nature, is deepening cooperation for shared global affluence. I love the fact that they do focus on the idea of cooperation, which clearly is a driver for collaboration and growth of the same. Uganda is holding the chairmanship or the secretariat for the next 3 years. The former holder of those rights, if I'm to put it in that way, was Azerbaijan, following the 18th summit that was held in Baku. They took us through those times of the COVID-19, and I should say they did pretty well, and it's time for Uganda to sail the ship even further. Joining me from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is the head of public diplomacy, Dr. Sam Omara. A very good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, viewers, and good morning, Joram.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for hosting me in your studio this morning. Yeah.
Indeed. The pleasure is ours. Now, Dr. Sam Omara did attend one of those particular discussions or one of those summits. Which summit, rather one of those particular committees, which committee is that? That is the Economic and Social Affairs Committee, of which there were a number of issues at hand, or issues that were declared, as we await to see what comes out of the final document of the Kampala Declaration. But of course, in here this morning, our focus is looking at what issues were discussed, what issues were at hand in the Economic and Social Affairs Committee. Doctor, briefly, how has the NAM Summit been for you so far?
Joram, I think so far so good.
Okay.
All is going very well. The delegates are enjoying the hospitality of Uganda, and I would thank Ugandans for being very hospitable people. We are known worldwide for being
hospitable,
very hospitable. The sessions are going on very well. The discussions are very intense and constructive. Like you mentioned earlier on, the theme for the 19th Non-Aligned Movement Summit is deepening cooperation for shared global affluence. That means that Uganda's interest is on the economic aspect. Like you also mentioned, there are two committees, the Political Affairs Committee, which is sitting, as well as the Economic and Social Affairs Committee. Now, some of the key issues that were discussed during the meetings, the senior officials meetings for the Economic and Social Affairs Committee includes, they reviewed the implementation of Agenda 2030 for sustainable development and the SDGs, especially the need to accelerate mobilization of financial resources for developing countries. Also, they discussed the implementation of the reform of the international financial systems to provide affordable finances for strategic infrastructure in developing countries. And strategic infrastructure includes things like major highways, airports that are very necessary for a country. They also discussed how to promote greater market access for products and services for amongst the NAM member countries. And but most of all, they discussed climate change. Climate change is affecting everybody. They discussed how to mitigate and how countries can adapt to the current changes in climate. They also discussed how to reduce the negative impacts of climate change and finances, how to finance it, how to mobilize finances, as well as technological transfer to the less technologically developed countries.
And well, of course, looking at those particular points of at state right now is where our conversation is majorly going to be rotating around. So we're going to be twisting and turning from the same angle in relation to what the major concerns were. And I'll start from the last part of it. I'm starting with climate change. Yes, recently the COP28 was completed, and it was in the UAE. Major discussions on climate financing were taking part of the same. Of course, when you look at the climate change and discussions, I want to believe there were some issues that were put at hand besides the financing part. You do realize most of the countries that have failed to address the issues at hand in relation to climate change, it's because they are really not financially at that state of doing the things, and the majority are non-member states. I don't know which kind of way which ways were addressed, or what ways were put in place to ensure that we are going to address some of these particular issues, especially the financial ones.
One, the discussions are still ongoing. I must first of all mention that Uganda has assumed the chairmanship of the senior officials meeting, Uganda has also assumed the chairmanship of the ministerial
yes.
Meetings. Very soon, Uganda will ultimately assume the chairmanship of NAM itself. Now, as the discussions are ongoing, one of the issues that was discussed was how to mitigate sand and sandstorms. Sandstorms is something that, for us, it affects us indirectly. When wind brings the sandstorms from the northern part of Africa, we see it as some kind of fog or something like that, yet it's actually sandstorm. So this is being discussed. But key concerns for Uganda is how do we mitigate and adapt to the climate change. You know, as some of these policies are discussed, the implementation lies on the member state. For instance, the implementation of how to adapt to climate change will fall on Uganda. Now, Uganda, after assuming the chairmanship of NAM, in the next 3 years, its duty will be to follow up on these decisions that have been made by the heads of states and government. These decisions will come out in the outcome document, and this outcome document will be directives, mandates, and policy decisions that have been made by the heads of states. And as chair, Uganda will be mandated to follow up on the implementation of those decisions, including the ones of climate change. Yes.
Okay. And of course, these particular decisions are some of those that will be undertaken, not only in the next 3 years as Uganda is holding the chairmanship, but also the member states that are part of the discussion. As we await for the end of the summit, where we shall definitely be knowing by 20th the final declaration of the Kampala, rather the final draft in the Kampala declaration in that regard. Looking at promoting access of products and services, yes. The element of, first of all, let me put it on the African continent, the AFCFTA, African Continental Free Trade Area. Yes. It's more like promotion of free zones, yes. and giving room for free zones for goods and services to get into the markets available. 120 member states, yes. Now we are also going to get the 121st member country in NAM. Clearly shows you there is potential. That is millions and millions of people who are willing to buy, yes. a given product and a service. You cannot fail to tap into any market.
Yes.
What are some of the barriers that were discussed in here, and how are they going to mitigate some of these issues?
Joram, one, the reason Uganda organized a side event, which is the East African Trade and Investment Business Forum. Mm-hmm. This event has been taking place at Serena Hotel and Conference Center. There has been an exhibition that has been ongoing there to showcase the products coming from the East African community countries. In that conference, about 200 businesses from the East African community countries participated in it, which is quite huge. It was actually beyond the expectation that we had. Now, like you did mention, that there are certainly barriers to trade that exist, and one of the ways that countries, especially Uganda, thinks that we can deal with the issue of barriers is to to belong to regional organizations, to promote regional organizations, like, for instance, the East African Community. Of course, it comes